Today I want to talk about the SEC's conference-only schedule and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on the step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to talk about the SEC's conference-only schedule, which was released Friday. This segment's going up on Saturday. And we're going to take a look at the monitor so that we can follow along and basically make jokes about Vanderbilt. So Alabama previously scheduled Georgia. You know what? Let's back up. Let's make sure everybody's on the same page like they didn't actually read the release like I read it. So the Southeastern Conference on Friday announced the additional non-divisional opponents each school will play as part of the SEC's conference-only schedule in 2020. The identification of each school's two additional non-divisional opponents follows last week's announcement of a 10-game season beginning September 26th. The SEC plans to publicly announce the dates for all games within the next 2 weeks as it continues to monitor developments around COVID-19. Quote, "We made every effort to create a schedule that is competitive as possible. That is as competitive as possible and builds on the existing 8 conference games that had already been scheduled for 2020, Greg Sankey said, SEC commissioner. The schedule is a one-year anomaly that we have developed under unique circumstances presented by the impact of COVID-19. Sorry. Under normal circumstances, the SEC schools play the other 6 teams in their division, 2 non-divisional opponents, and 4 out-of-conference games each season. Usually, like 2 of those are FCS opponents, and 9 out of 13 FCS conferences have decided not to play football in the fall. Okay. In the newly revised schedule for 2020, each school will play 4 non-divisional opponents, in addition to the 6 teams in its division. Okay, we don't have dates that are out yet, but we expect to get them as the SEC season is supposed to start on September 26th. So Alabama was getting Georgia at home. They got to travel to Tennessee. We knew about that one. Now they get Kentucky at home, travel to Missouri. Yawn. Arkansas was scheduled to have Tennessee at home and then travel to Missouri. Okay, now they add, Georgia at home at Florida. That'll be fun. Auburn had Kentucky at home, traveled to Georgia. Now they add to that Tennessee at home, travel to South Carolina. Also good. Florida has LSU at home, travels to Ole Miss, and then gets Arkansas at home, travels to A&M. Again, good. Georgia gets Auburn at home, travels to Alabama. They can win the Alabama State Championship. Check that out, okay? Then they get Mississippi State at home and then at Arkansas. Kentucky, Mississippi at home, at Auburn. And then, once we get to LSU versus, okay, you get South Carolina at home, you travel to Florida. Fine. You get Missouri at home, you travel to Vanderbilt. Yawn. And on it goes, right? Basically what this is, Tennessee's got a pretty tough schedule. They get Alabama at home, they travel to Arkansas. They get A&M at home, they travel to Auburn. So, for the most part, I like this. For the most part, I think that this is good. For the most part, I think this could even be what some people might construe as fun. But it's also conference only, which means that we're talking about Alabama, Florida, Georgia, LSU, maybe A&M being the teams that people care about most in this league nationally. Whereas I think Arkansas has the most to gain. You have a good showing against Georgia and Florida and maybe beat Tennessee. Right? Get a good showing against Missouri. It's on my brain, sorry. Georgia, again, adding Mississippi State and Arkansas doesn't really do much because really wanted to see that game against Virginia. LSU, you had that game against Texas, and now you are basically adding Missouri and or Vanderbilt to replace that. Again, not what we wanted. And then Ole Miss had Baylor. Now they're adding South Carolina and Kentucky. Again, not exactly what we wanted. Vanderbilt trades out of Kansas State for an LSU, which is not at all what anybody wanted, right? I think by and large, this is good. It's about when these games get played that's going to be most interesting as the SEC continues to try to build toward something like building in COVID-19, let's call it prevention tactics, right? Where you probably try to give a bye week or two to make up for games that you might lose. The Big Ten schedule probably gives them a good place to start with when we're talking about how they're choosing to schedule those games. Like Michigan's game with Ohio State, the game has been moved up from the end of November to the middle of October. I could see the same thing happening for big games like Auburn, Alabama, the Iron Bowl, and others, right? Some traditional rivalries that we're used to seeing, or traditional games like the world's largest cocktail party, right? Florida versus Georgia. That could be moved up to October as well, just so you make sure you get those games in before the flu season really starts to pick up in late October and early November. And in the South, it's a little bit further, closer to December and whatnot. But the way that Georgia in particular has botched the COVID-19 pandemic restraints, it's all a crapshoot. And for Georgia, this is particularly interesting because, like, Jake Garcia decided to transfer from California to Valdosta to play high school football. And I can't wait to see how that goes, because he's going to be among a bunch of guys that are in that state trying to get their seasons in. But even so, like Jordan Hancock's not going to be playing for North Gwinnett, because that man has decided to sit out the season because his mother just got done battling cancer. He does not want to bring home anything that could jeopardize her remission. But you do get to see Barrett Carter. You'll get to see guys like Amarius Mims. You'll also get to see guys like Terrence Ferguson play high school football. Brock Vandergrift's going to play at Prince Avenue Christian. I mean, Georgia's going to play football in the same way that Oklahoma's going to play football, Texas is going to play football, Ohio's going to play football. States that traditionally not just value football but depend on it to get financial gain are going to play football, right? That's the long and the short of that. It's about what's the impact on this going to be. And as Greg Sankey said earlier in an interview on national radio, look, there's a truckload of issues that you can point to. But the fact of the matter is everybody is dealing with this in an unprecedented fashion, right? I had a conversation with Wyatt Wheeler, who covers Missouri State, about how Missouri State might actually just play 3 games in the fall and treat it like an extended spring, getting Oklahoma, Tarleton State, and maybe one other game in, and that could be for the best, right? That could be to their benefit. But as we continue to have these conversations about what the Southeastern Conference does, the Big Ten Conference does, whether or not the Pac-12 even gets its schedule off and running in September, what the Big 12 does, what the ACC does, keep all this stuff in the back of your mind, because I think it's really going to matter as to how and why we might not get through a college football season. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.